All right, so the ride is over. It's been about 2.5 weeks, and
Holy
last
cow.
video.
Hey!
This video is for all the bikers out there. We're gonna go through most of the gear we used on the ride and talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, what was a good decision, what was bad, and hopefully help some of you out there that are thinking about doing the Ride the Divide in the future. So as you have questions too, I'm sure things will come up.
Email, comments, questions.
We'll start out with the rig. Shane and I had the same rig, so what'd you think overall?
I love this bike. It's a 27.5-inch tire, mid-fat, hardtail, pivot less, and carbon rims, carbon frame, beautiful. Perfect for this ride. Very stable, very light mountain bike for climbing with all the gear that you have on it. I just thought it climbed really well. I thought it was fast.
Yeah, it was really a bulletproof bike, and so we saw a ton of different bikes out on the course. A lot of really great bikes. In my opinion, this was the best built bike out on the trail that I saw of them all.
Yeah.
So some of the thinking that was involved picking this one, obviously it's light. We debated long and hard if we would do a rear suspension. The problem is, if you do a rear suspension, your shock is in here, and so you lose all the triangle space for storage. And so we decided, hey, look, we want that triangle space for storage, but we still want the softer ride, and so that's why we went with the plus size tires, and that was a major win.
Yeah.
Another piece is there were guys out on the course that used they had a rigid front fork. Our opinion is definitely go with suspension for a couple reasons. One is it's way safer, and it's also a speed thing. So you're having a lot less wear and tear on your body as you're just able to pound through stuff.
Yeah, we were going, 40 miles an hour on downhills on these roads that had potholes, and we were able to just, blast right through it. And that front suspension keeps you from going over the front. You have so much weight forward anyway with the bags and all kinds of things going on up there that you need that give or you're gonna be in trouble if you get going too fast.
One thing I would recommend changing from this bike has the dropper seat post, so you hit the little button and your seat comes down. You're not going to be able to use it anyway because you're going to have a bag on the back below your seat, and so you might as well save the weight and not have the dropper in there. As far as gearing goes, we went with a 1x11, which was quite sufficient for the ride.
Especially with these newer bikes, you've got these top gears that you can almost walk faster than this bike will go. So when it gets really gnarly and steep and you got weight on here, you have plenty of bottom gears. We decided to go with the 27.5-inch tires, mid-fat. They were 2.85s and 2.80s. Pretty aggressive on the front as far as the tread pattern goes. Just found that we also had carbon rims. So these tires, I think, Keith, they were just one of the best for all the terrain that we faced.
Yeah, we used the Bontrager Chupacabra, which pretty low rolling resistance, and I've got over 3,000 miles on this tire. I didn't change it the whole ride either. And so it's done, it's ready to be changed for sure, but it lasted really well. I gotta say, for years, people have been trying to convince me to go with carbon rims, and I couldn't justify the price, and was able to get them with this build at a cheaper price. And carbon rims, by far and away, are the most noticeable upgrade I've ever had of being quick and fast. Saddle choice is really important. This is, I don't even know which Specialized saddle this is, the Phenom. Fantastic for me. Everybody's geometry is different. If you've never gotten a saddle fit, I would recommend it. This made a huge difference for me on the ride. It was a fantastic saddle. The other thing is, people are really nervous about, you need to have mechanical disc brakes, and you need to have, aluminum parts, and I don't know. I ride, and so does Shane all the time, all year long, and we don't have issues with these kind of things. And if you need a little adjustment, there are bike shops along the course that you can limp your way into.
Yeah.
So. anything can break.
How many sets of brake pads did you go through? We didn't
None.
go through none.
None. I didn't go through any brake pads. It might be a good idea to bring one set of pads, especially if you're a tentative descender and use your brake more. The other thing though that you will guarantee use, I went through 3 chains.
Yes.
I would definitely make sure that they're accessible at bike shops or that you bring them with you. So you gotta figure that out. All right, so now we're gonna talk about the bags and how we set up the bikes. Shane and I did almost identical setups. We chose to do water a little bit differently, and so we'll talk about both of those, but we'll start at the back of the bike. We used the Revelate bags, the large bag that hooks up right below the seat. That works fantastic. It was, I can't imagine a better bag. There was nothing left wanting.
Perfect. Now, they have a couple different sizes, so just make sure the large does fit on your bike, that there's enough space. And if it does, get the large. It was great to have all the different, you know, your jackets, gloves, clothing back in there.
Because you can always cinch it down as tiny as you want it.
Down.
Then we also used a frame bag by Salsa. The frame bag by Salsa is
phenomenal.
Stellar.
The
amazing.
best. The best.
And so it sits right in the middle triangle. You got one big pocket on this side, and then on the other you have like a small pocket that you can slide a map into, and we use that constantly for the entire ride.
They did a good job of keeping the water out. The other thing that I did that was different than Keith, this is where I kept my water. So I got a Camelback bladder, and would keep it full and keep it in here. That kept my water low on the frame and the weight in the middle of the bike, which for me worked for me. The disadvantage to that is you have to stop and fill up your water bottles that you keep up, you know, on the front of the bike, and that takes time.
And then up front, we both did the same thing. We had Revelate bottle bags and mounted them both here on the front so that you could store water bottles. We ended up 90% of the time having one water bottle and sticking bear spray on the other side.
Yes.
Never used bear spray on a bear, but when I got to New Mexico, I got chased by dogs probably a dozen times. And I had the safety off of it and ready to shoot a dog, and I would recommend having that available because man, there was some really dicey, scary situations with the canine.
To have that close and handy right here versus in a bag and you're fiddling around, you don't want it there. You want it up here where you can grab it and be ready.
Yep. My favorite bag of them all was, I can't remember what this is called. Some people call it the gas tank, fuel tank, something like that. It sits right here on your bike. You can fit a ton of food in here.
Lunch.
Yeah, and we use these bags a lot. Yeah. So best bag, I think.
Yep. Made
by Salsa, fantastic. So the difference also, so we had a supported ride. The difference, if you're gonna do you could use this exact same setup on a self-supported ride. Mm-hmm. The difference is you would probably want to get the Revelate bag that fits on the front of the bike. It's probably about that big around and about that long. It's a great bag. One of the guys on our ride used it, and you could carry a whole lot of extra gear that you would need if you're going to be self-supported. The last piece that I had on my bike that I did differently than Shane was I mounted my water on my lower stanchions of the front fork. And so I bought these cages from King Cage or holders. And so you can also buy these brackets that go around your lower stanchion and then hook into the holder. And then I had the 50-ounce Nalgene water bottles that I would have sitting on the front of my bike, and I would wrap them, secure them with the orange straps that you also get from King Cage. Fantastic product. I was able to carry 125 to 150 ounces of water super conveniently, which was helpful in the desert. All right, so now we're gonna talk through just different things that we had in our bag. This is not everything that we had, but we'll kind of bounce around and talk about some things. Obviously, even with go tubeless for sure.
Yes.
A tubeless tire is the absolute way to go, because if you get a nail in it, you get a thorn in it, it's gonna heal. There also is something I learned halfway through. So I did have a puncture that I fiddled with for like 4 days of it trying to go down. I'd pump it up and try to go down and pump it up. But I was able to ride for those 4 days until I put a tube in. There is something I found that it's awesome, and it'll be at every bike shop, and it is a repair kit for a tubeless tire. and it looks like a piece of metal that then you take like a piece of rubber, like real sticky rubber, and you wrap over the metal and you punch it into the tire. And if you even put like a bunch of glue around that, repair glue, it really seals amazing. And I saw a tire in the bike shop that this lady had punctured her tire and repaired it almost 20 times. She rode through a bunch of stuff and it was working great. So I would definitely take that with you. If you take it, well, you should take a tube also. It's a good idea. Take double duct tape, wrap it over on itself, wrap that around, and then go ahead and wrap several reams around your tube. It's a good idea to have duct tape. It fixes everything.
Duct tape is the best out there.
Yeah, it's good to have. Other stuff we had on our that's sort of strange. We carried this fire starter. It's packed down pretty tight in case of emergency. This stuff will start a fire even in wet weather. Carried our handy dandy Canadian lighter.
Bought in Canada.
Purchased in Canada, afterthought. The best bike pump I've ever had. This is a Crank Brothers bike pump with a flexible tube, and it's a magnet. It just magnets on and you pump it up. It has the handle to push on. It is fantastic. And if you're watching the video where I did have to use it and I had to use it 650 times to pump up a tire, 650, 660.
Yes.
I was really grateful that I had this.
Yep.
In addition to this, I did still carry a CO2 and the adapter to pump up the tire. Carried a bike tool, carried a Leatherman. The Leatherman was a lot of extra weight, but hey, if you needed pliers or you need a knife.
Yep. It's amazing too, all the different things. I mean, this is like just simple, but these little, what do you call these? Zip ties. These zip ties, you know,
break a bag?
Break a bag, you just put things on it. Light, don't take up space, easy to use.
Yep.
Zip ties.
Number one thing to tell you, bring bug spray.
Tons.
You think, oh, I'll be riding my bike, I'm not gonna need bug spray. You stop to fill up water, you need bug spray, especially in the northern part of this country. It was insane.
The mosquitoes.
Like you stop and instantly there would be 20 or 30 mosquitoes on you. And
black flies, painful. Even a net, you know, because there were times that, you know, it was bad.
Couldn't get away
really
from
bad.
them.
Couldn't get away, irritating. Ooh.
Yeah, one of my favorite pieces of gear and one piece that did not work at all. So you end up riding on some roads in bad condition. Tail light, had support vehicle come up behind me and he's like, I couldn't see you at all. And this thing is bright, 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 and it's blinking, and especially if it's not completely dark outside, you can't be seen. I would recommend bringing like a triangle, an orange triangle flag or something that you can put the flaps on your bag or something, just for safety.
Definitely, and especially, you know, when you're riding through Wyoming, there were times where we were on a busy road with tourists and big motorhomes. You want them to know you're there. Yeah,
that's the truth. Maybe my favorite piece of gear of the whole ride is the Oakley racing jackets. These sunglasses are phenomenal. I don't think they look the best, but they do an amazing job. They have road and they have mountain bike lenses that are not polarized, which you want because you want to make sure that you can see water. You don't want to see through water or puddles or anything like that. They were fantastic. Best sunglasses I've ever had for cycling.
If you're picking a lens color, you know, rose or the yellow, by far the best.
Yeah, most versatile.
Yep.
Other things we carried in the bag, we carried whistle, you know, a tire lever, carried little straps in case something broke that we could cinch things back to our bike. Also carried extra spokes. You need to have spokes to repair, because if you go to a bike shop, they may or may not have your spoke size. Also carried extra pins to repair chains if the chains broke.
As you're riding along, everything gets really dusty and become really difficult to shift. This right here, every once in a while we would put the tri-flow and all the different pivots. Helped a ton. Take some of this.
And then also this stuff, chain lube. Definitely, it's bulky and it's extra weight, but you're gonna want to lube your chain every single day because it's a lot of miles. Another of my favorite pieces of gear is this. It's the Buff. It's so simple. Yeah, this is fantastic. It fits underneath your helmet.
And sometimes too, when you're in a situation where you got headwind blowing, it just gets irritating in your ears, and be able to just have something cover your ears helps a lot.
Yeah.
All right, see this hat? Man, you probably saw Keith and I wearing, you know, our hats like this. I thought they were the silliest things until I actually started wearing them. And in all my years of cycling, nothing has been more effective than a hat in keeping the sweat out of my eyes, because it makes its way down the brim and drips off the brim, and it helps. My eyes didn't sting. I wear contacts, and so, you know, my eyes are always burning, the suntan lotion, all kinds of things. I have not experienced that wearing one of these hats.
POC makes one of the most comfortable helmets I've ever had. They're a bit pricey. Their bands do collect a ton of sweat, which is why the hat is super awesome.
Super awesome. Bear spray, Frontiersman. I ordered mine off of Amazon. It's simple, easy to use, and I strongly suggest before you get out there riding, read the instructions, make sure you're comfortable, make sure you know what you're doing, because when you do run across wildlife instantaneously, you're not going to have time to think. Okay, so know what you're doing. The other thing is the Boudreaux's butt paste. This is very important, especially the first 2 weeks. Take a little dab of this, and it will help you recover, your skin recover, your rear.
And your sit bones.
Yeah, and all your sit bones as you're sitting there for hours. We would make sure we cleaned up real well and then put a little of this on, and it'll help you recover for the next day. Very important. Gotta have the lotion. Keith, every day before he got out of bed, was completely sunblocked. But it's amazing when you're out there, there are certain parts of your body that will just get hammered. Your forearms, your knees, the tops of your knees, and even with sunblock, you're still gonna get sunburned. Everyone needs chamois butter. This right here will save you. If you're doing, maybe you're in your training, you're doing 4 or 5 hours, but when you start doing 8, 9, 10, maybe even 12-hour days, this right here is the difference between being able to do back-to-back days of that length, or maybe the next day only doing a shorter ride because you're so uncomfortable. These two will keep you going and much more comfortably.
I would say it's really interesting. Something else, just another tip that we've noticed, is day 1 through day 5 is like a deterioration of your body.
Yeah.
And we were taking bets on when it would turn around. And it turns out by about day 6, your body starts to recover and you start to feel like, okay, I can start doing this again, and you start to improve from there. So as you begin a ride like this, expect to feel worse and worse for 5 days and then the turnaround.
And that goes as well for your rear.
Talking about other gear, this saved our life.
Yes.
The Garmin InReach Explorer. It's expensive, but what it allows you to do, you can text anybody anywhere in the world, even without coverage, and they can text you if they have coverage. So our wives could text if they needed to get hold of us, and in an emergency, there's an SOS button that emergency responders will be dispatched to you no matter where you're at in the world, no matter how remote you are in the world, and it saved us numerous times on the ride. I cannot recommend it enough. And it allowed us also to download the maps of the ride and see kind of where we were at along the way. So we had paper maps and a redundant map on this.
It'll save you miles.
We used the Garmin 1000 bike computer, and that would mount right here on the bike. And that gives you, your basic information, your heart rate, as long as you have a heart rate strap, speed and cadence. Odometer, you don't necessarily need that nice of a Garmin. I've just had that one for years and years. As long as you have a good odometer, then you should be fine. An odometer, something like the InReach, that allows you to text and see maps, and then you have the paper maps, then you should be good to go. I would also recommend having a light on your bike in case you end up getting stuck at night, or you decide, hey, it's too hot in the desert and I'm gonna leave before the sun comes up. We also used the GoPro quite a bit for a lot of our footage. We mounted it with a bracket onto the handlebars. Gives you kind of shaky footage, and then when Austin would yell at me, then I or Shane or Kurt would put on the chest strap, and it gives you a lot more stable footage if you're trying to document the journey. Waterproof socks. So I never heard of them before, but you know, on some of those rainy days when I was getting hit like 4, 5, 6 days of rain in a row, your feet just you get tired of having your feet wet, and your skin begins to break down. So I ended up using these towards the end of the ride quite a bit. These are called seal skins. They sell them at REI.
We were supported as we were riding, but and we carried these bivvies with us. Each night we tried to hook up with the team that was supporting us, but we did carry this with us just in case something were to happen and we needed to stay the night.
I carried these big honking gloves with me. It wasn't important until it was super important. And so it's like,
Right.
I think I only used them 3 days of the ride, but those 3 days of the ride, if I wouldn't have had them, I would have been in utter misery to the point of maybe not being able to shift anymore because I'd be so cold. And I also carried shoe covers.
One of the things to remember is, as you're doing this ride, you're gonna, you hit situations where it is freezing cold. You could even run into snow, all the way to over 100 degrees.
In my back bag, I always had, so I had these rain pants. They're Patagonia rain pants, and gosh, they are amazing. So you know how rain pants are. They're like nasty plastic, clammy. They don't stretch, they don't move.
They don't breathe.
The fabric stretches, and they have the bibs if you need the bibs. And they were really amazing whenever the rain started coming down super heavy. They're not meant for cycling, but they worked fantastic for cycling.
Yeah.
I carried legs, extra leggings. One of the other pieces that I found incredibly useful is a base layer by Patagonia. They've had capilene base layers for years. They have a new one now that has a waffle pattern in it. And so it keeps you warm, but whenever you start to heat up, it allows the heat to disperse. In my back bag, which the other piece that I don't have here, is just a light rain, waterproof, windproof shell. That piece came on and off a ton. And then we carried these jackets with us, and whenever it got cold, we put it's a water resistant, wind resistant jacket over the top of that.
We rode with the full fingered gloves. We didn't do the half fingered much. There's just too much stuff out there in the wild. You hit your hands on things. It was amazing, the different bushes and sticks and rocks, and just that little added protection was worth it.
And get them with a lot of the padding in the palm. Not all gloves are created equal. The ones with a lot of padding is really nice for all those extra miles.
Yep.
As far as shoes go, obviously we used clipless pedals. Those are the ones that click to your shoe attaches to your pedal. Yeah, that's, you know, if you're biking and you're doing this, you know that already probably. And then I brought some Old Man Winter boots to ride in. I felt like they ended up probably being overkill. They were nice to have, but a bit overkill. A regular mountain biking shoe with tread that you can walk on is good. Tons of great shoemakers out there. This is just the one I happen to use. It's a Shimano shoe. These ratchet systems are amazing. If you haven't tried that yet, that's awesome. This is the amount of tread you need. So your cleat just kind of fits in underneath the tread. You know, just something you can walk in.
You know, when you're on your bike and you're carrying things, you don't have a lot of space. But food and nutrition is important. So one of the things that we found worked well for us every day at lunch was a tortilla, some ham and cheese, maybe a little bit of mustard or mayonnaise in there as well. The tortilla didn't get soggy, but yeah, you still got nice carbs with that. So that worked well. The other thing is we would oftentimes use a Cliff Bar or shot blocks. We had goo, didn't use it very often. Goo tends to, you spike and then just crash hard. So that was kind of in a dire situation, would you use any goo? We also made our own trail mix that we ate a lot of. Each kind of threw different things in that we like.
I would say my very favorite when I am in a dark place and I can't go any longer, the Hammer double shot espresso.
Oh yeah.
Goo. Man, I don't like to use it very often, but you need to have some of that kind of stuff with you because you will hit your limit. Guaranteed there will be a time when you don't want to go any longer and you pop that and all of a sudden you're like, hey, life's not too bad.
I can do this.
Another thing that we brought that we did not need, if you've ever dealt with cramps in bike races, they make a product called Hot Shots, and there's a ton of writing and research that is really fascinating about that. Fantastic for racing. For this, we didn't need it. You don't cramp, you're not riding at that intensity level, so we brought it and didn't use it.
Didn't use it.
I'm eating trail mix, actually. Leftover trail mix, so good. This stuff, fantastic for your water bottles. We would do 50-50, so you just scratch in half your water bottles, and do water in the other half, and so that's what we use most days, and stuff way better than Gatorade. It's not going to cause you to have the spikes that that sugar stuff will. And there's a lot of other products out there that actually really are pretty good by Hammer.
But a 50-50, when you're doing this ride and you're on your bike for 8 hours, even this gets too sugary after a while. So know your body and what works for you.
That's right. My top 3 gear choices: racing jackets with the mountain bike lens, the Revelate, I guess, handlebar bag that you can just have easy access to a water bottle. Pretty awesome. And it's a toss-up, but probably the rain pants. Again, one of those products that you don't need until you need it. And then when you need it, man, it is a game changer.
This garment right here saved our bacon so many times, as we would just say, let's check and make sure we're on the right place before we head down 10 miles. The other thing is this hat. I just loved this hat and how it kept the sweat out of my eyes. It also protected, you know, my face, my forehead from the sun. Very nice. You gotta take care of your rear. The Boudreaux's butt paste, the chamois butter, you have to take care of yourself. And the other thing we didn't have here, but wet wipes. Use wet wipes to clean up yourself each night after a ride. Get rid of the salt, kill the bacteria, and then use the Boudreaux's. That'll make your ride much more comfortable.
Number 1 favorite piece of gear?
The bike, without question.
Hands down.
The bike.
No complaints, would not change anything except the dropper seat post. So that's it. This is the gear from the ride. And if you're interested in hearing our experience, we actually did videos for every single day of the ride. So there's over 40 videos out there with our ugly mugs in it.
That's right.
And we did it to raise money for an orphanage in the Philippines, family home in Ukraine, and backpack programs to feed kids right here in America. It was more successful than we could have ever dreamed.
Yep.
And look forward to giving you even more updates about that along the way. And so thanks for watching. Leave us a comment in the comment down below. We'd love to answer your questions and to help you on your ride and your adventures. So thanks for following.
Adventure on.
Oh.